Well, welcome to today's ITAM Kitchen. I promise I'm going to be here every day. Today's topic is about connecting that message, right? And the whole idea here, and I have Deanna back. I appreciate you being here, Deanna. And because I did this, I came up with this actually in the last couple of years. And the whole idea is about connecting your message the first time. Because when we start talking about connecting the message, presenting, et cetera, it's not something we're taught, right? Unless we specifically focus on this, it's not something that I'll say we're required to do until it happens. Until it happens, what do? We freak out. We totally spaz like, I feel apprehensive. I feel intimidated because everyone else can do it. I've never done it before. And we'll just list the items, right?
You mean like feeling you were thrown to the wolves?
Yes. Well, then you say, okay, you're going to go talk to the CIO. Okay. You lose your breath. You feel like you're underwater. You feel like, I don't know what to say. I can't breathe, right? And you're perfectly good, right? Not trying to be true dramatic. That's what happens. Deanna, I don't know about you, but I know that's, I can say some of it. And it even happens a little bit more even today, right? It doesn't have as much because I'm more confident because I've practiced. And that is a good point. Practice. That's the only way to Carnegie Hall, as we say here in the States. And you have to practice working with it. But when you also realize when you get in that room, right? And we've talked about this over the last couple of weeks. When you start talking with executives, they're human just like us.
Yeah.
They're down to earth. They have different focus areas, but they're human just like us. And and what they're doing is they're counting on us to help support their role. And we realize that we're a supporting character and we're key to it. We think about totally different.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry, we've got all sorts of screens going on here. When you think about it from that standpoint, it thinks about, okay, how do you work with your job differently? How do you think differently, right? Because as asset managers, software asset managers, configuration managers, I'm going to group us all together, right?
Yep.
We're in the data. We're in the weeds. That's what we love to do. We're talking about, okay, we're going to raise our efforts and we're going to start talking how we can report upon the data. This is actually what we're talking about, right? But when you start getting that higher level, figure out, okay, where are we going? So I jumped right into it because that's where my brain is. But let me back up for a minute. If you haven't been part of the ITAM Kitchen before, welcome. Here it keeps spreading. This is it's a little creation from a couple of us have put together. And the whole idea is we're talking about these topics that are very relevant to our jobs that no one talks about. You don't talk about getting in the weeds. And I also bring practitioners into it. It's not about a vendor discussion. I may have one time bring vendors in. There's been some of that discussion, but my purpose is not to have the sales pitch. My purpose is to say, let's talk about how we can work through our jobs and be more strategic in what we do. And when you think about that, how we go to the next step, these are topics that honestly, sometimes you get a chance to talk to the conference, but then you go home, you forget, you don't know what to do, you get caught in the grind. And for what we were talking about, it's like, okay, let's talk about the experience. I myself, if you've never met me before, welcome again. I'm one of the founders. I'm actually one of the founders here in the ITAM Kitchen. I also have a community called the IT Management Co-op. And the co-op is for asset managers, software asset managers, configuration managers. It's not the rudimentary level, low level stuff. This is actually where we talk about and collaborate like things like this all the time. And we have a blast. Oh my gosh. It's absolutely awesome. But my point is here is being able for the ITAM Kitchen is say, okay, this is the opportunity for the collaborator to put it. And I'm doing it every day this month. We're going to do it through the end of January. Then we're going to mix it up a little bit. We're going to have a little bit of fun because that's the thing I want to bring back to ITAM. It's a personal goal of mine. I want to bring the fun back into it because it can be I'll use the word mundane. We're data geeks, okay? But when you bring the fun back into it, including the collaboration, then it becomes lively. Then it becomes energetic. And you get your enthusiasm back. I mean, I've done it for 30 years and people say I'm crazy, which, okay, I qualify. I'm 30 years, repeat yourself. There you go. But I'll say it's never boring.
No.
Whatsoever, right? I can look at that. So a little bit of introduction of myself. Deanna, I'll let you introduce yourself real quick while I get some slides ready for us to show on the screen.
I'm Deanna Henniger. I've also been in industry a good 30 years. Started out with service management.
Yeah.
And then once I found the niche in and of itself that opened up for the ITAM, I recognized that I enjoy chasing the assets because it's what helps support the service. And one of the things we have been discussing here is certifications are really good, but not forever, ever, ever. The certifications will get you in the door, but it's what you know that will keep you in the door, that will keep you there. And so what we are discussing in the ITAM kitchen are those nuances that we've learned in the background on how to handle ourselves and others, pretty much more of how to learn how to handle yourself so you can handle others. And that's what we're sharing here. Your certificate will get you so far. It gives you basic knowledge. But how you interact with clients and customers, that's why we're here. Did I give you enough time, Bill?
Well, that's perfect. Thank you for that. Well, let's also talk about our experience, and not to go too crazy, because I think there is a session we need to have talking about the experience, how we got to be where we are. Because you've heard that a little bit over the last couple of weeks, and we all have different journeys, right? For example, I started as an end user support technician when I started this, right? Which is not uncommon. It still happens today. Okay, you're going to do asset management on top of doing the maintenance or issues or escalations. Trust me, I've been there, right? And then I got the email saying, okay, now you're going to track everything, right? And whether you talk about what I was doing at Vanstar, I'm an old Vanstar. If anybody knows Computerland, yeah, Computerland turned to Vanstar here in the States. Yeah, I was part of all that. GE Capital, I was doing it for them and their customers. CompuCom, I've been definitely involved with that level. I'm an old Peregrine guy. I've been around that product more than Peregrine was. The old Asset Center stuff. Trust me, I still love that product even today, even though it's totally changed. For all sorts of reasons. We can talk about that later. I was also acquired by HP. I was with HP for several years on that, including Worldwide Lead. And then you continue on, whether it's the Flexera, Aspera, et cetera, and you get different experiences, right? But I leverage that not to put myself on a pedestal. I leverage that to say the war wounds, right? The scar tissue, it's there, right? And that's where I'm coming from. So that's a little bit of my background. Deanna, you want to go into yours real quick? As we talk into our messaging, because this is critical even to our messaging, right?
So I spent a lot of time. I spent time as a corporate trainer, and I started out with like Symbol Technologies and a few companies out on Long Island, and then waiting for the children to go away to college. Then I moved myself into the city, where I was doing corporate training as well, and then I realized that training doesn't necessarily pay that much, even in corporate. And the first department to let go is probably the training department. So I started going to businesses, convincing them that my skill set and my master's degree make me a master. Not a master, what they call a supervisor. And so I started getting jobs in management, and started out as training back for JP Morgan Chase. And then I started moving into asset management. So I've worked with big banks. I've worked with title companies. I've worked with, I worked for Dell for a while. Then I went back. Didn't get a chance to bring up my resume. It's been so long, I forget all these things.
Yeah.
But I've worked a lot of companies as full-time employee and as consultant. So I've never really had a job when I consider the business. I've always been on the IT end of things. How I got there, I really don't know. I tried other things, and this seemed to be the fit.
Yeah, it's interesting. And if you found that fit, welcome to the family. That's what I have to say, right?
And juggling is one of our skills.
Well, it is absolutely. And I'll give an example. This is one of the reasons why we're a little bit, I had a couple minutes late this morning. I'm trying to move to a different technology to do presentations like this. We'll just say I got all the way to the point that I forgot the login and the password to what I need to log on the machine about. It's like, you know what? This goes true with the presentations as well. You just make it happen with whatever you have. It's okay. And you just have to be calm with that. And that's what we have to learn as practitioners, right? It's like, you know what? It's not exactly how I planned it, but it's good enough that at least I can have a conversation. And I put that. As we got that started, I just want to do a little introduction. Again, I said the pedigree. My purpose, again, is not to put us on pedestals, but help sharing the knowledge, where it's coming from. Because we have different types of knowledge. And that's key. Dave Hunt, shoot, I used to work with Dave back in my CompuCom days. I mean, we were peers at that point, right? Robert Collins, I haven't met Robert yet, but I've been told I'm going to very soon, as an example. And I love meeting more people, right? Yes, Robert, you're absolutely right. Cat herding. It's dead on. That's what we do. There's entire commercial on that. If you look at the old ADS cat herding, just look it up. It's absolutely true. We still do that with IT today. It's just like on YouTube. So a little side nugget, but anyways. But if you think about what we do, how we do it, we have to communicate. But I say that for us because we think about that's very personal. Right? We think about, okay, the craziness. Again, I had another technology. We're going to move forward. It didn't work out. You still have to show up. Yep. Now, I'm going to put you in a different mindset. I'm going to put you in the mindset of the executive you're about to talk to. It's no different. They're going they have different meetings. They have different skills. They have different things on their mind. It's going crazy. They have things at home. They have maybe the car, they had a little fender bender on the way in. Someone else is dealing with it. But they still have to show up and be in your meeting. They want to be there to give you full attention. It's no different. And I put that as an example because when you start looking at that, right, start thinking it through, then we realize you remove the titles, we're actually just people trying to collaborate.
Yep.
That's all we're trying to do. It's that simple, right? And being able to look at that, that's what drives our leadership. Thank you for that little nugget there, Dave. I just saw that come through. From a leadership perspective, because that's how we lead. We have to lead with our experience and be, I wouldn't say just always a calm as a cucumber, because it doesn't always pay off to be calm as a cucumber, right? Or I don't know where that phrase came from. I have no idea. It's more like a duck. I like the duck on water. Because you got the duck just running away. You don't see the feet just going away underneath. That's us. Yep. But I use that for an intro because when we talk about our message, that's what we have to keep in mind when we talk about our message and get to the point. Yeah, it took me 15 minutes to get here. I get it, right? But my point is get to the point with your messaging because that's what the executives need. They're going to give you maybe 15 minutes. Maybe. And from that, your discussion may go forever. I mean, I've been given where 30-minute meetings, executive or whoever, this major stakeholder shows in 15 minutes late. It's like, okay, fine. So I literally need to cut this down to like 2 slides, right? Yep. And I have a 5 or 7 slide deck. And from that, I start the conversation, et cetera. He cancels his next meeting because he realizes it's this important. Yep. It ends up being a 45-minute meeting, so it's even longer than this. On top of it, he says, I now want you to talk to my team because you evidently know what you're talking about. You got my buy-in. Now I need you to get my entire team bought in. So I give that as an example because that's what I'm talking about, the messaging. When you're able to get the messaging across at different levels, they will stay longer than they're planned. We all have backed up schedules. All do, right? I do. Right. And this is the ITAM kitchen and the co-op. That's my world. But trust me, even that stays extremely busy on several fronts. I always have people to talk to, how you look at the practitioners, you get the phone calls, et cetera. It's about that focus. We'll have totally separate sessions on that. But I'm saying this from the messaging because when you start thinking about it, all the craziness we have in our world, again, the person on the other side right across you. Look, even what you're thinking about right now, whatever it is, right? Your home office space, you might be on the road, you might be just listening on YouTube. I get it, right? You're focused on multiple things. We all are. But how do we get our point across to make sure we're connecting? That's what we miss. And that was the whole purpose behind this. I actually did this for my summit, which you're going to hear about the summit in the next day or two. I've got some things being finished up on that. But I'm going to show it up here. And the whole idea is I want this to be collaborative, right? as always, you've seen me do that multiple times. We're going to talk about being collaborative, and you just happen to see the Summit logo because I did this in my Summit. I said 3 years ago. Oh my gosh, it's been 3 years. I've been doing it 3 years now. I love it. This is actually in-person type of event that I put on every year. We do it in August. You'll see the announcement. It should be this week. Come out on that part. But this was the message I put in here initially to help kick off the entire session. It is about connecting your message. And the purpose behind this and why Deanna and I said, okay, we're going to collectively work on this, right? Is let's work through it and talk through this, because it's also about that additional education, that insight, and get insights from others. It's not about just text what you're going to see on the screen. It's about the collaboration you're going to have. Because just as you see the meeting right here, everybody talking, etc., that's what you want. If you're the only one talking in the room, there's a simple question. What's wrong?
Yeah.
Right?
What's wrong?
Yeah, because to your point, Robert, you nailed it. You could be the wrong audience. Something's distracting, maybe, and maybe there's a significant event that just happened with the other person on the other side that they can't focus. If that's the case, just call it and say, okay, I understand, totally get it. But how can I help? Right?
Yep.
We don't think about connecting like that, but sometimes that's how it works. Because one thing, I did this one time. It was hilarious. How often has your message had this type of result? Right.
Hello.
This is actually, well, it is, but this is actually the LAX airport, 5 o'clock in the morning. One of the few times you'll ever see it is during the morning. And yes, I have been there as the gates open. I took pictures because I was like, I'm going to do a presentation. This is perfect. This is for my audience and talking. Okay. Has been the result of this, right? Or have you looked at it? Okay, there's the security lines. There's no one at the door. I mean, we've run into this, right? But you think about, okay, how often do we work through that? Because we have the expectation reality, and Deanna, fill in, chime in. You have the expectation reality, but what's the outcome, and how do you align that, right?
Even in the communication, we are going in with an assumption because we have to assume something, and then we have to listen. And if our assumption of what they needed is not what they need, or they don't understand that, that's where we need to communicate and bring in their thought processes. And one of the things I talk about a lot is called emotional intelligence. That's where you talk on these 3 different areas. They say that you communicate as an adult, you communicate as a parent, as if you're above somebody, or you communicate as a whining child that I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. And those of us who spent a lot of time in industry have learned that when we do our communication, we need to come from an adult, because we can't parent the CEO, and we certainly can't go, you need this, you need this, you need this either. So that's where we have to learn how to communicate ourselves within our own message. And that helps them to understand that, oh, okay, they really are listening to me. You have somebody who say, oh, I see what you're saying, but they're not a see person, they're a listen person. It's another area. Or if somebody says, oh, I get what you're saying, I can feel it. Well, you can't talk to a person that says, hey, I see it, going, why? I'm listening to what you're saying, but I don't see what you're talking about. Those are real conversations where we need to learn to adjust how we communicate to what their communication skill or where it's at. And a lot of people don't realize those nuances. Like Bill was saying, what if he had a bad day? He's trying not to have the day ruin it, but management is not allowed to have a bad day. It's kind of funny. We still have to do our management jobs. So we'll see what happens with that.
Well, it is, and you have to be able to say adapt to it.
Yes,
it's that adaptability that's critical. Again, these are these are skills as part of life. I'll be really honest, right? I actually do some coaching within the co-op to help folks through this. We do some, we we do some examples and work through some use cases that have that role play type of dialogue, because that's also what helps. But for the most part, you're not taught this, right? And that's what we want to drive into. So I'm trying to get the screen right so that we can all see it.
We're the listeners to what you are trying to communicate to us. And if the communication is, I just want it fixed, well, let me tell you how to fix it. I don't care how you fix it. So those aren't really good communication skills, because yes, I understand you may not want to hear it, but let me break it down to you in smaller steps. Like talking about a kitchen instead of talking about a computer. Most people know what a kitchen looks like.
Exactly. So, and I'll say you also want to think about how you express yourself. So let me go into that a little bit, right, as we get into it, because we've got 6 steps we're going to walk to, and trust me, we will probably go. I see the people already online, and we will go to town on this when we start digging, which is awesome. It's also your frame of mind you're walking that door with.
Yep.
You can be petrified, sporadic, et cetera, or just spastic. But when you walk in that room, you have to be in the right mindset. Say, I'm going to do my best. I may not know a little bit what I'm talking about. I'm a little apprehensive what the response is going to be, because I've never talked to this executive, or I've talked to the executive and been beaten up or eaten up by him before, if you know what I mean on that. And I'm just going to do my best, because my mindset is I'm coming out of here, not egotistically, but I'm going to come out of here with a progress with where I am on this whole message.
Yep.
When you talk about buy-in, right, it's talk about where you want to help communicate your message. And I'll have somebody even get more in depth on that. He's a great communicator as well, like Deanna, because we talk about, I'm also do a lot of Toastmasters, things like that. And I'm still part of Toastmasters. I've been doing it for now 20 years. I love it. Right? It's like, Toast, really? It's like, I learn every day. But my point is, when you go in that door, walk in that door, it's like, you know what? I want to make this happen. Do you know what that happens? Deanna, tell me, what happens when you have that expectation, and what it does to your inner being when you just have that expectation that we're going to get this across. We're going to get this message across.
It's like doing, before you go into the meeting, find some place in the hallway and do the Superman steps. It really does help. I thought it was kind of foolish nonsense in the beginning, but it's not. It sets your own mind to understand that, hey, I may not be totally confident in everything they want, but I have a knowledge of what I need to explain. And then you need to spend the time getting on the same page, right? No pressure. It's no pressure for like a church. I have to read the readings every once in a while. And a couple of thousand people sitting there, and you don't want to mess up. And it's the same thing on a one-on-one conversation. I once lost an interview because I used the word heal instead of fix.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and it took me a while to understand what he didn't like about the word heal. When I say put 2 things together, I usually say marry them. Someone didn't like them, marry them. Or just put it together. So you learn maybe the next time you may not use that little phrase that means exactly what you want to say.
That brings a good point. It's the culture.
Yep, it's the culture.
Culture where you are, right? You have to make sure you're relatable on that side. And if you're calling somebody brand new, just be, I'll say, conservative when you walk in that room, right? I'll give an example, right? You learn how to have fun and run with it in a heartbeat. There was one time, and one of my customers was actually LDS Church, the Latter-day Saints. Walked in the meeting. They knew me. We were friends. Say I've been there several times, and they're a blast to work with. And I've talked about doing workshops or something with them. It's like, well, if you want, I'll bring donuts tomorrow. I'll bring coffee, etc. And they all looked at me. It's like, what did I say? And they go, you said coffee. It's like, I'll bring decaffeinated coffee. Will that help? So for those that don't know about Latter-day Saints, they actually caffeine, they do not consume, right? It's just, they consider it a drug, which is their religion, totally. But going in there, ever since I've got, every time I go back, that comes up. because that we have it in a fun way because
Yeah.
we understand how to relate to each other, right? And when you have relatability like that, it's huge, right? Some good customers, absolutely. And Randy, you got something. How do you handle customers when they have an agenda derailing meetings? Just ask them to the door. No, you shouldn't do that. Well, sometimes you may have to, but we can come back to that. We'll come back to that question because, yeah, you're right. It's you do have to work with that and sometimes redirect the conversation.
I totally understand what you're asking, but right now the meeting is focused on this. I will meet with you after this meeting so that we can get back on the same page.
Exactly. So great little diversion there, Randy. I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And if those don't know Randy, she'll actually be joining us on Friday. We here on the ITAM kitchen. She's going to be joining us, talking a little about some of the content and what her passions are. So we have that happen. So as we move forward, my gosh, I can't believe it's almost halfway through the hour.
Oh wow!
These times go fast. Again, with the 6 points, the whole idea is I was working with some advisors of mine within the co-op, and I said, we need to figure out how to resonate with executives. They said, okay, let's get down to 6 steps. And with that, we actually did a presentation on this 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 5. And the whole idea was starting with socializing the idea, right? And the whole idea when you start getting your message across, just to get it started, right, is talk to peers. See if the idea and what you're talking about is going to resonate with them so they can actually be supporting characters for you. If it's a big presentation, the way I always learned it, I learned this actually in FlexAir from the sales side, is if you're trying to get to the CIO, talk to all his direct reports, make sure you have buy-in first, socialize it, prior to talking to the CIO and going in that meeting with the CIO. And Dana, why would I do something like that? What makes sense?
You're getting buy-in from the people who support him. This way he's already ready to support us because his people are ready to support us. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm trying to get the screen right so you can see all this at the same time. There you go. That's it. That's better. And I find that every time that works, because what happens is typically somebody's in the room or they already had his sidebar conversation. I said, they'll give the executive a heads up. It's like, by the way, we just talked to Bill. I love the whole idea. It's working really well. We might do X, Y, and Z, but when he talks to you, because I know he's going to talk to you, I totally endorse this with these maybe a little bit in there, or maybe I'm just totally bought in. That conversation is a water cooler chat before you ever go in front of the executive. That's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to be on cloud 9, but you don't realize how much work it is to have that cloud 9 or cloud 13 opportunity, right? So when you start socializing it, then you say, okay, I'm kicking tires. This is what I'm struggling with in asset management. You might be saying, okay, we're thinking about that next tool, and you don't want to use ServiceNow because it has this great little widget thing tied to it. And you might say, okay, this is what's going through my brain. Is there a way, do you buy in on this, right? I'm just using it as an example. It can be lots of different things, right? But then as you see here, you start listening.
Yep.
And it's being able to say, okay, how do you work through this and get that feedback? Because feedback's a gift, as we say here, as I would always hear in Scouts and we talk about in this organization, is being put in there, right? Because you become that trusted advisor. When you look at that, that's huge. Deanna, do you want to add a little bit more?
Like the trusted advisor, there are companies that have, like, say, just an example, say Deloitte. They come in. If the client doesn't like one of the Deloitte people that they bring in on a project for whatever reason, that person's no longer on the project and they have to bring in someone else. So the name Deloitte is trusted, but not
just Deloitte, by the way. We're just picking on Deloitte, but it can be
it's only just a name, okay? I could have said PNC or all these other, but you're now going. But if your people in the company are not supporting you right, they're going to start losing their credibility if they don't find all the people that they need for your job after they've just paid you a couple $100 or more. And that's what they have there. So I've actually been on in companies where they fired somebody from the consulting company because they didn't like the way they handled themselves. And that's not helping your effort. So, you do what they ask you to do, even though that was your top guy for this information, you find the best way to get it back out. Yeah, so I
And
guess
we
that's
start
you.
thinking about it.
Yeah.
No, it's awesome. Well, kind of like, have you ever had the last bullet on here happen to you, Deanna, as far as somebody stealing your idea?
Oh, yes. And the other thing is, I come from a teaching background, so I have a tendency to give them the idea and let them run with it. So I have noticed not to give my ideas out too often because I give them the credit. And that's because I'm not a selfish manager. I don't have to be the it. I only have to be IT manager. And that's, most people don't have that idea like I do. Here, let me help you with your idea. Am I going to help you make money off of it afterwards? Not unless you get me 10%. Okay. But people will steal your ideas because they have some of their own. And what you said was really close to what they had in mind, but they couldn't verbalize it correctly, or you gave them enough information to put their two ends together and they just go further with your idea. I kind of use embellish. I don't like the word stealing, but I don't steal. So that's the, yeah.
Well, to your point, it's steal is we think about stealing, right?
Yeah.
It's immediately negative form. That's what goes through our brain, right? And that was the whole idea behind that bullet. Steal your idea. And like you were saying, Deanna, sometimes it's not about stealing. Maybe they have the ability to actually help push it through.
Yeah.
And they have the wherewithal that you're trying to get started. They're already halfway down the track.
Right. And we don't know that.
Yeah. And that's where you start looking at alignment, right? Yep. And when you think about how that works, then you start saying, oh, wow, okay. You start that collaborative approach.
Because then you need to get yourself back on the same page. We have to recognize that we're not on the same page with the CIO. The CIO does not necessarily have to get themselves on our page to have the conversation. We need to bring our conversation up to their page. And we may have to explain to them that we'll get to that page. One of us may be on the wrong page, and continue the conversation until you have achieved your buy-in. You can have achieved buy-in in a meeting, and he goes back to his office, and the next thing you know, you're not signed, and you don't know why.
Well, exactly. And there's lots of things and I've even had it doing what I'm doing now in webinars, et cetera, even in my own community now, right? In the specific ITAM space. I've seen others actually, replicate what I'm doing, it's like, okay, they're stealing, et cetera, right? No, it's actually a compliment.
Yeah.
Because you can help better communicate. Mm-hmm. It's like, cool. If it's helping you drive your own change, which is what your purpose is, and mine is an example. Okay, how you approach things, right? If you're helping drive change and it gets followed, that's the best compliment you can get.
Yes, because if someone's going to take my idea, like we had said, they've already had the idea. Maybe we gave them how to get their foot in the door, or they had to tweak something that they didn't know, and that's what conversation is all about. And in some companies, they can't steal your idea if you're in a proposal area because you're doing NDAs. We have non-disclosure agreements.
Right.
How that protects us one way or the other, I don't know. It should. It's a piece of paper on file someplace. And if you leave that company and you don't get the gig, they can still use your ideas because it's now internal.
But my point was with the last bullet, right, is sometimes with stealing your idea, there's people have egos. They want to move forward and try to get it and jump ahead of it, et cetera. But remember who generated the idea.
Yes.
This is extremely important, right? If it's your idea, you have the passion, you actually brought the topic, you're already a light years ahead of that person who's stealing it.
Yep.
Right? And you have to keep that in mind, right? And that's where, irrelevant what you're doing, it's like, okay, you're going to take a steal. It's like, okay. It's like, I know eventually come back because I know how I want this to plan out. And I'm not going to get emotionally attached. I don't want emotionally attached because it's my idea, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to let this disturb me because, again, it's my idea.
Yeah.
Right. I know the plan. So keep that in mind.
That's right.
The collaboration, and also if you use someone else's idea, that was a great point, Robert. You brought that up. So it's in that last bullet. I'm trying to hit multiple screens here. The credibility. If you get someone else's idea to give you something to help you further, give them credit.
Yes. Always give them credit. I mean, that's one of the things I find that depending on what kind of ego you're working with, some people will just take all the credit no matter what's going on. And other people, always. And it is nice when you get your little name in there, a little blurb, and then good, they listened. And I brought value. And the whole thing with the conversation is to bring value to the client.
Yep. Absolutely. So from that, we can continue on forever, but that highlights the socializing. But I want to make sure we brought that one up because that's probably the most important part we always get stuck on with socializing, because all of a sudden someone was stealing, taking, et cetera. And then ask them what happened, why it occurred. It's just ask them straight out, which we always get apprehensive about, but it's not to be conversation. It's not to be confrontational is the word I'm looking for.
Right.
You want to be conversational because you might find out, again, that person's actually helping you out and you just don't realize it.
Right.
And it can be leadership. And you could have executive manager might say, oh, I'm going to take this part of my initiative, move forward, and I need you to help me because it might give you a new role.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so we could drill on this for probably the entire hour just by itself. But we have a few more next points in here. So let's go to the next slide. Identify the individuals you want to talk to, right? Is identify when it comes to your message, who you're going to talk about that trusted advisor, how the good decision is going to be made. Talk to somebody who's been here, done that a little bit in the communication. We talked about the first lieutenants before, right? Everyone to the CIO. Great examples. They've gone business. If you're trying to do a business case, we were talking about that yesterday. Ask them, say, how did it work for you? What did you see the outcome? And listen to them story. Listen to them story. Listen to me. Okay, I don't know what's happening in my English, but listen to the story, right? And listen to the lessons learned, because there's also an ask you might have at some point and said, can you help me? You usually do, whether it's a template, whether it's you review it, et cetera. That's huge, right? And when you look and identify that, again, it's that trusted advisor, because then you get the more of that buy-in. Deanna?
Yeah. Sometimes, let's reorganize my thoughts. If we get to view what they have first, even though we need to give them our idea, we know where their starting point or their jumping off point is. And sometimes a company doesn't necessarily want to tell you everything because they're having some pain points, and those pain points they may not want to have made public, even public to maybe other departments, but you'll know that those other departments already know it. But as you show that you are only going to value the information that you're given and not talk out of tune, that brings you up a little bit further in your communication, building that trust. And trust is very important.
Well, it's also about the trust, because you message across, right? It's also about the messaging. We were talking about this a lot in our business case discussion yesterday, right?
Yeah.
How you portray your message could be different with the person you're talking to versus who you need to get to.
Right.
Right. And this is a great example when you start saying, okay, I understand you like X, Y, and Z. That's awesome. You're in the technical weeds, but our executive, came from he's a financial guy. Right? He likes to talk to the board. How are you relating to him? Because your mindset is totally different and he's trusting you to work with him. It's like, that's awesome. I want to learn that type of skill and that insight.
Yeah. So right? If you go into someone financial, so what is it about the finances or the lack thereof of being tracked. How is this affecting you? How do you see this? What does a golden source look like to you in the future? How much money are you willing to pay to have it look like that? Those are questions we don't necessarily have with the lower uh, management, but with upper management, we get more nitty gritty into how do you see this progressing? I know this department is dragging behind a little bit because they are so ingrained in what they do. They don't want to change. They don't want to move over, even though the whole company is. So you learn from the CIO where to get buy-in from the other silos that may not be cooperating with them as well.
Yeah, it's about who you want to have that trusted circle, and you have a little bit of everybody. So that's the whole idea is when you start looking at targeting, I say targeting, but we help identify, that's probably a better word.
Yeah.
Help identify who those are. Then you're able to say, okay, I know some of the influencers may not have my messaging right, but we're going to talk about that because we're going to hit the relevancy. And that goes on our next topic here, right? The context relevancy, right? Because as to continue on the discussion, where literally you just were there, Deanna, I think it was.
Yeah.
Right. And we talk about the financial versus technical versus not. The best way to put it is you also understand, you're going to understand from those individuals you're getting coached by to say, if you're trying to get the CIO for budget approval, he may not be the right guy to talk to.
Yeah.
I mean, he owns it, but he may not be it because your trusted advisor you're learning to actually talk to the executive is actually the right guy. He gets it or she gets it, right?
Right. And there's so many, the larger the company, the more the levels, the more the layers you need to go through. And the personalities you meet on the way up may not be the personality of the person who eventually makes the final decisions. And this job is learning how people communicate so we can communicate back. The context, it may be relative. I need to teach you or tell you about XYZ, but you're not interested in it. So how do I teach you about PDQ instead that leads into XYZ? You know, how do we refocus our communication to get the buy-in when we feel that we're beginning to lose it?
And one thing to note, I know asset management, software asset manager, even configuration management, more ham and SAM, right? The hardware and software, or even cloud. We talk about cost savings all the time. That is everyone says that's a shoe-in, right? The reality is, if you can talk about cost savings, but it's almost become like a fad. I'll be brutally not saying there's not relevancy to it. There is, but that shouldn't drive the entire conversation unless you had a risk or something. Then you have that need. Validate that you need to bring cost savings in the conversation, because if you don't, that actually makes it a little bit easier for a discussion point. It's kind of where I'm going on that, right? Because we can show dollars and cents all day long, and they want to see savings, yeah, to a degree. But they really want to see the collaboration. They want to see insight. They want to be able to minimize the risk, as we talked about the business case yesterday, right? Because when you show that, and they see the collaborative effort underway, now you got it, right?
Right. We don't judge. Yeah, I like that. We don't judge. We don't want to judge what they have in mind. We want to collaborate and draw out so we can get a better understanding, and they can get a better understanding. If they're judging, you may not know exactly what they're talking about, because you're now saying, "Oh, I think they're doing blah 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 blah," when they may only be expressing something.
Yeah.
Okay.
How often do we do that in our personal lives?
Yeah.
Right. Happens the same way in the workplace, right? But we start thinking about sharing that information. Also, you understand what we talk about, the culture and how you talk to, and you also have to figure out what words resonate with them, right? Initiatives. Because when you start looking at that, then, because we gave the example technical to, say, a CIO that came from the financial background, right? You might find out that his core focus is they want to cut the entire company's budget by 10% or 20%, right? And you just happen to be, you're trying to gain money. And from that standpoint, okay, figure out what's the collaborative, where do we bring it in the middle?
Yeah.
That's not an easy discussion. It's just
Yeah.
not. But the amount of thought into it when you have that collaborative discussion to say, here's what's going through my brain, and maybe that's an executive discussion you need to have too. Here's what's going through my brain, and I need your help to see, one, make sure I can relevant, I'm going down the right path with you. But number two, I need your help to figure out how, if we're going to make this work, how I can help you so you can help me.
Yeah. We're not there to ruffle feathers. We're there to solve a problem. Now, if in solving the problem does ruffle some feathers, we got to get it fixed. I mean, we're not brought in to just, show up. Hey, we have a couple extra dollars. Come on over and talk to us. Hey, we have something that needs to be fixed. How is your communication and your solution going to work with our situation? Efficiency,
Or
right?
maybe,
Yeah.
it is, and maybe your idea is just to figure out how you can help.
Right. It's like sometimes people don't realize being more efficient does save you money. Well, so what? They closed the ticket 2 minutes earlier than last time. That gave them enough time to do a half of one more ticket. It lowers the amount of calls in the queue. They may not see that as a cost saving as well. Getting your data correct.
Well, it's also about how you're looking at your customer, right?
Yeah.
You and I have had the opportunity, and there's several here online as well. We've had the opportunity, we've talked to multiple different customers, profiles, et cetera, right? Different types of organizations. And the conversation you have like this, to say to an American Airlines and how they're doing asset management is totally different than how you're going to talk to Home Depot.
Yeah.
Different than how you're going to talk to Citicorp.
Exactly.
Totally different, right? Yeah. And that's the context here is like, okay, let's understand this, because so easily as a practitioner, I'll just call us that, and this also goes for consultants, we say, okay, it's cookie cutter. We're going to make identical one to after another, not realizing that the audience is different. It can be exactly the same title.
Yeah.
But how they receive it, those words, extremely critical, right? For example, how Home Depot is looking at it, they want to make sure, okay, they get product on the floor so they can sell it and make sure the product comes in, right? American Airlines, they want to make sure those gates are in there and they get people on the plane and back out. If the assets are not working at the gate, I'm sure we've all been there with that problem, right? You've got to move around. You just delayed a potentially downstream an entire flight and a segment on top of it. Again, it's all different. And we just have to make sure we keep that in mind, right? Because those use cases are critical. Oh, we could keep going for hours. This is awesome.
Well, discussing people is a fun job.
It is. And that's a great point. Is we get apprehensive about talking with people because we have to get comfortable with it. But I know, Deanna, you just said it yourself. I'm the same way. I love working with people.
Yeah.
I love working with people because when I understand what they're thinking, how they're thinking, all of a sudden the light bulb goes on, so they can drive their own decision. I've done my job.
That's it. Yeah. And I love watching that light bulb come on, but I've also seen in meetings when you start seeing that information overload. Okay, guys, let's take a 10-minute break. I can tell some of you've got enough information right now. You need to think about this. So let's not push the conversation. Let's go have some decaffeinated coffee, and then we'll come back.
Well, I'm going to go through this next slide, but I know we got 10 minutes left, so I'm going to try to keep us on time. This was a June 3rd webinar we did with back in the co-op. The ultimate decision maker. This was a survey I did real time. When it came to decision maker, this is the type of audience we were talking to. So if you're concerned, okay, who am I talking to? You're not sure when you're walking the door. This is typically who you're running into. And this was feedback from those live in that webinar. You got some directors in there, vice presidents typically, and then typically the CXO, that can be a CFO, CIO, typically not the CEO. That's a different person. Depends how big or small the company is. But I just want to put this little segment out there because this is good information for you to leverage as well. Just so you realize what type of audience you're usually working with. Now, to continue the next step, right? The decision making. How are they going to make decisions? That's extremely critical. And we just talked about the three executive types, right? Cut to the chase, make it happen. You got the 15-minute discussion, or do you want somebody that's also, okay, I'm into the discussion, but all of a sudden, I want all the details. And there is no perfect solution on this. Speaking of somebody that does business cases all the time, right? This depends upon the person, what their skills are.
Yep. Yeah, I know. It's like, okay, that's what are their skills? And we don't necessarily know that. We just know that they move themselves up within their company, or they moved over from another company. Sometimes we don't know for the brand new CFO, and he wants things in a certain way, and his own company doesn't even know it yet. So it's also the communications within the company that will affect us as well. Yeah.
And that's important because when you start looking at the detail, we talked about this in the business case again yesterday, right? How much detail you put within the business case, you can have it all ready. You have to be prepared with the content. You may only be going with 3 slides.
Yeah.
Now, those 3 slides may more if you look in the backup slides. Absolutely go into them, talk about them. Don't be shy about it when they're asked. But you have to be asked to go there. Don't just dive into it. Because if you just dive into it, they're going to say, well, I'm busy. They're going to look at their iPhone and say, okay, I've got to go to my next meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm getting interrupted. Here's another text, another email I need to deal with that's more important than this. I don't want you to run into that, right? That's an important part. Okay, so that's 4. Now we're getting to 5. We're going quick because I'm trying to wrap up at the top of the hour. Timing.
Oh, yeah. How often do you need me to report back to you? Daily, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly? When are you going to be making your decisions? Does your company like to have full spreadsheets with all the colors, bells, and whistles, push the button? Or can I just give you a nice presentation? Absolutely. Yeah.
Everyone's a little different on this one too, right? It goes back to how do they consume information?
Yeah.
I mean, I've been in many tables with executives, in many different forms. It could be across from a desk, full desk. They're having that, so it's very formal. It could be in a conference room, so you're doing that. That's great. I've been in a table inside their office, and there's 3 or 4 of us. We're kind of hunched up because the table's not very big, but we're having an awesome conversation because they don't have time to go to the other room. They don't have time to go to the other building. They just need this to happen and say, okay, I'm focused right here. I can't leave the room or I'm going to be pulled into something else.
And the written or verbal, once we've done it verbally, we should always write down what the meeting minutes, so that we can rehash, just in case we heard something incorrectly. That's one of the main reasons why we give a write-up about the meeting if it's only been verbal.
Yeah, and then I see your note there, Robert, about assuming you'll ruffle some feathers. That depends upon the individual, how they're looking at it. Totally, I get it. And they may or may not be invited to the meeting, right? Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. When you talk to your trusted advisor, you get some coaching on that, on who should be in the room. Because sometimes it's just the executive's like, I'm going to make this happen. Yeah, he's trying to do that. That doesn't bother me. If he doesn't like it, he's going to move on.
Yep.
I've seen those conversations too. It happens. It's the best way to put it. And the last one here on number 6, right, is the how. Right? We talked about many of these points already. Asking questions, don't be afraid to ask questions because you're learning. And when you see, if you're asking the same question again and again, okay, you're going to get repetitive. Just be brutally honest, right? But when you start someone is successful and also someone is not successful, then you get those tips and tricks and say, okay, this is what worked well and what doesn't, right? And about that feedback. Feedback's a gift again.
Oh, yeah.
Listen, right? When you start looking at that, how can you help propagate everyone else? And keep in mind, you may not be providing the message. You may actually help provide the message next layer up for them to present it up too. And that, if you get a little ego, if it hits your ego a little bit, okay, it's going to a degree. If you haven't done it before, I get it. Best suggestion I have on that is like, it's okay.
Remember, they're not talking. They're not necessarily. It's not one of those things. I want you. No, they would like your company to. So that's where you have to remove your ego from what they are asking. They're not necessarily asking you. They're asking you to provide from the company. So that keeping my ego out of it is one of the best things I can do.
Exactly, because the ego is usually what hits us the most, right? As a whole, when we put that, because when you get this all right, how you look at it, how you talk with people, how you can improve it, it maybe is some practice runs even before you do the main meeting, right? Or have the discussion or coach the other individual. Like we were talking about yesterday, if you coach them really well, they're going to say, you know what? I need you for these 3 points. Just be quiet in the back of the room. Yeah. I'll call you in if I need to, but I will let me drive the discussion. If your leadership's going to do that, take them up on it.
Absolutely.
That's the best compliment you can get. It's your content, absolutely. And whether they give you credit for it doesn't matter. But if you're in that room, that's where you want to be because you're visible.
I am in the car. I may not be driving the car, but I am in the car.
Well, I also say if you're in the room, you're in the room.
That's right.
Right? You're not sitting outside wondering, okay, what's going on? Are you looking for another vendor, et cetera? Now, if you're in the room, you're in the room. And that's key because when you finish your message, you ideally want to have folks like this lining up to talk to you. This is actually, you can tell where I was. Actually, this is for something else. That's weird. I've seen plenty of these in the airport too. But as we look at summarize, wrap this up, because I really am trying to get to the top of the hour. When it comes to presentations, own it. Do the work. Don't expect someone else to do it for you, right? Those relationships and influencers, they're critical. Because that's, again, how can you help get your message across is also about how you communicate at what level. Yeah. And that's huge. Anna, you want to have any parting words on this one?
Just maintain your own self-confidence, maintain the knowledge that you brought in was built on the proper reasoning that you thought the company needed, and just do your best. That's all you can do.
Exactly. And if you fall down,
get up.
Exactly. I don't know if you heard that, but yeah, get back up.
Yeah.
Because the only way we grow and learn, and I had to learn this the hard way. Ego got stomped on left and right, especially in a consulting organization with customers, et cetera, on School of Hard Knocks. Got hit on all the time and just kicked my butt, right? But when I learned to get back up and say, yeah, that happened. It's okay. I'm going to continue moving on anyways.
Yeah.
Whole new leaf and whole new. When you realize that, okay, when you fall down, you have that wall. You're getting it. It knocked you down, right? You know how it will go through that wall, right? 3 more steps. The wall falls down. You keep going.
That's right.
It's a learning opportunity. Always treat it as such. Don't look at it differently. So often we get caught in our own mind, say, okay, we can't do it. It's the end of the world. Somebody doesn't like us, whatever it is. It could be trying to present our message. And the reality is, it didn't work with that person, but maybe you're talking to the wrong person.
That's it.
You're talking to the wrong person. So with that, I hope you guys really appreciate today's ITAM Kitchen message. I appreciate all the dialogue happening. I wasn't able to read everything that was going through. We were definitely moving forward. But Deanna, I definitely appreciate you being here. This has been great.
I'm enjoying this.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. Here's what's coming in the next couple of days. Tomorrow I have Chad Gates here. We're going to talk about the unknown special gift we actually all have within our practice area. It has to do with ADHD. I know. Yeah. So actually, he and I had a great discussion last night on that. So we're gonna have a lot of fun. He's a phenomenal speaker. If you've never seen Chad speak before, he's definitely been at my conference multiple times. And then I have Rennie coming in. You saw her clap up a couple times. She's coming in on Friday to talk about some of her passion as well as some of the additional dialogue we're going to have. So rest of the week we got a full, good next week full as well. So if you have any additional topics, please bring it in. They're filling up, and we're having a blast. We're having an absolute blast. So tell your friends, pass it on, promote the. I saw some of the promotions happen today, which is great. Also, if you haven't been part of the YouTube channel, the ITAM Kitchen, make sure you connect over there as well, and connect on that. Sign up because you're going to see these also as well. So appreciate everyone's contributions. This has been phenomenal. Look forward to it, and I will talk to you guys again tomorrow
Thank
at
you.
10 a.m. Eastern. I will see you then, guys.